everyone. Welcome back to Very Factual Podcast. We're your hosts, Kayla.
And Isabella, and the FA Cup semi-finals took place last weekend, and Manchester City knocked out Chelsea 1-0. The deadlock did not come until the 84th minute with a Bernardo Silva goal, clinging City's chances at silverware this season. I think in this game, both teams weren't at their best. I think City looked very tired. I mean, some they've had tough games this season, and after when they were the game that they played before this, they got knocked out by Real Madrid. So I understand their tiredness. And Chelsea, they were just Chelsea, and that's the biggest story. Like, we blew it again.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Looking at the score, you'd probably think, oh, City played good. Chelsea must have really stepped up their game. But if you really know how, the game went, like you said,
Mhm.
City was just tired. They didn't really know, and they actually stepped down to Chelsea's level instead of
Yeah.
Chelsea stepping up. And I want to say, it was pretty even at some points during the game. Like the
Mhm.
ball kept on going back and forth between the two teams, and they were both kind of taking shots. But at the end of the day, City's goal went in, which gave them that lead.
Yeah. Yeah, City were slow and they didn't create much. Like, they lost the ball a
Yeah.
lot more than usual, and they kind of just looked dead. Like, it didn't look like they wanted to be there. And like I said, I think the Champions League exit is like a valid excuse for that, so I won't give them like too much stick. But just like Chelsea couldn't capitalize on that weakness, and there was not a better time to beat City than there.
I agree. Like this was the time that would have been like best for Chelsea to get a really good confidence booster, take that win, go a little further, maybe give them something to bring back to Premier League and other leagues that they can, work harder
Mhm.
in. But they didn't even try. I feel like they kind of went into the game thinking, "Oh, it's City. We're going to try, but we know we're going to lose." Like I kind of have that feeling from them, and City went in being like, "Okay, well, it's Chelsea. We know how they play."
Yeah.
So they were tired anyway. You got to cut them some slack because they did win anyway.
Yeah, and Chelsea, they just can't get anything over the line. They're not efficient in like in the attacking half. Like, we don't look threatening at all, and that's like the biggest thing I noticed from this game. Like, Nico Jackson is an absolute joke. Like, I have like a hatred towards him, and I don't even know why. It's just cuz he is so bad. He's done absolutely nothing for us
He
since
just
he came.
Yeah, he just wasn't worth the money. He wasn't
Mm-mm.
worth the time spent on him. He's not worth even being in the game.
Yeah.
He just doesn't fit at Chelsea. Maybe a different club, who knows, but
Yeah.
definitely not Chelsea. He's useless to them.
He's like my least favorite player on Chelsea, and I have a lot of least favorite
Not
players.
Yeah.
Like, I think Chelsea, we could have dragged it into extra time, but the last 10 minutes, like when they conceded, I just knew we wouldn't get back after that. Like, once that Bernardo Silva goal went in, I was like, yeah, we're done. Like, there was no chance.
Yeah, something that I've mentioned before was that Chelsea, to win a game, the opposing team needs to score early.
Mm-hmm.
So what if, for example, like I said before, I think if Chelsea's winning a game, they'll keep the win until last minute, well they'll lose it. And if they're losing a game, they'll take it back last minute. But in this case, they were tied the whole game and there wasn't much time for Chelsea to gain it
Yeah.
back, which we often see them do that during games.
And I think if we would bring it to extra time, I think we could have beat City. Because, like I
Yeah.
said, they were not mentally there. It was not a good game by like any standards, but City just dug it out because they have that experience, they have that mentality, and there's a huge gap between the teams, and we can obviously see it. Like, City have the most experience, they know how to pull through, and City just don't. I mean, Chelsea just don't know how to finish teams off, and that's what Poch needs to get into this team because experience is key, and we have none of that.
Exactly. I agree with everything you just said.
Mm.
Manchester United played Coventry in the FA Cup semi-finals and just barely won in penalties. The game started off well in the first half from United, with McTominay scoring in the 23rd minute, and when the second half begun, a shocking early goal from Harry Maguire. And just 10 minutes later, United scored again, giving them what was expected a secure win with a 3-0 lead. However, this lead wasn't as secure as everyone expected because shockingly, Coventry managed to tie up a 3-0 lead with a goal in the 71st and 79th minute and a controversial penalty in 90 minutes added time. The game went into overtime and no one scored, leading to penalties, with Manchester United winning 4-2 in the penalties, giving them this very close and lucky win.
Mhm. It's crazy. Like, the bigger story is that United almost lost to Coventry City rather than getting to a final. Like, they just
Yep.
let them climb back in it so easily. Like, they're so bad.
Like, we've mentioned this before and I'll mention it again. United is so based off of luck this season. This
Mhm.
is like insane. I mean, sure, they got 3 goals in the beginning. They had a 3-0 lead, but they also lost that. They
Mhm.
lost a 3-0 lead.
Yeah.
And then they somehow managed to win in penalties. But still, like, I just don't understand how that's even possible for United to go to the finals now.
For
They're in
real.
the finals, which was probably, I don't think you and I ever expected that.
Yeah, I guess we could say they didn't deserve to go to a final. Like, Coventry City looked more deserving of it. Like, United have been outplayed by some really bad teams this season to their standards. Like, Coventry dominated in the second half. They wanted it more. And
Mhm.
that was like clear. Like, United crumble so easily when one thing goes wrong. When Coventry scored, United didn't know what to do.
No.
Like, no one leads them. They all just fall apart.
I feel like they had that lead and they kind of took it for granted because they were
Mhm,
like, "Oh, we're
mhm,
gonna win. Let's just take it slow." They really moved their defensive back and were
mhm.
defending because they're like, "Okay, easy peasy. We're just gonna take it slow."
Yeah.
But I think Coventry really took advantage of that because
Mhm.
they probably realized, like, "Hey, United is gonna slow down, try to defend as any team normally would if they have this kind of a lead before. I mean, around halftime and stuff." And they took advantage of that and really brought their game to the table, and it almost paid off, but
Yeah.
sadly it didn't. I say sadly because I can tell they put an effort, but also I'm kind of happy United won as a United fan, but also it
Mhm.
wasn't really deserved, I want to say.
Yeah, they got away with it.
They
I
did,
think
they really
that's what
did.
we could say, and they didn't even celebrate. Like, the winning penalty, literally no one celebrated. Like, Rasmus Højlund, he started celebrating, he turned back around, no one was running to him, they all just stood there because they couldn't celebrate, because it was so bad, and if United would have lost this game, Ten Hag would have been out before he went back to Manchester. Like, no way he would ever coach United again if he let that
Oh yeah.
happen.
Oh yeah, for sure. If they lost this game, yeah, he would be out. They'd be out looking for another coach
Oh,
again.
yeah.
Just United has been so rocky this past
Mhm.
year. It's just insane to me. And I just want to say I'm surprised Harry Maguire
Oh,
scored.
yeah.
It was insane. I mean, like when I saw that he scored, I was like, I got that notification. I was like, no way, I think this is wrong because he's been so on and off, and he also scored in the Manchester United's Premier League game, which we'll talk about later. But
Yeah.
the fact that he literally, like, he's so off and on, he's not constant, and so many players at United are like this, and it's
Mhm.
just not good for them. They really need to put themselves back together.
Yeah, and I wanna say, like, one more thing. After Ten Hag had a press conference, and he said they played well and they showed character. And if he thinks that he's literally blind, like, everyone can
Yeah.
see how bad they are except him, even the players, because they don't have good mentality, and we see that out on the field. But I guess they can take a sigh of relief, but the pressure is building on Ten Hag, like, massively.
I feel like, I mean, I agree with you. I feel like United doesn't have that mentality. They're like, "Oh, we're not good. We need to bring it up," but they don't actually try to bring it up. Like, for example, take Sheffield United, for example. They're
Mhm.
not that great, but when they go out on the field, they try to bring their game every single
Mhm.
time. Even though they know it's probably not going to be a great game, they still try to win. They
Mhm.
still try their best. But United just doesn't. Like Manchester United, they go out there, yeah, they bring their best, but if they start to lose, then they start to lose. They start to give up.
Chelsea got thrashed by Arsenal on Tuesday, losing 5-0. Chelsea would start off on the wrong foot, with Arsenal getting an early goal in the 4th minute by Leonardo Trossard, but the goals didn't unleash until the second half, with two braces by Ben White and Kai Havertz, giving Arsenal the much needed 3 points in the title race. This was a training session for Arsenal. Like, it was so easy for them, and it's just embarrassing.
I mean,
I I
All
can't.
I want to say, all I want to say is that it's 5-0 against
Mhm.
Chelsea. Like
Mhm.
5-0.
Yeah. I
That's like I
it's
have nothing else to say. I just again,
yeah. We
it's
were
embarrassing.
Yeah, we were bad. We were bad in the first. Okay, we weren't super bad in the first half because Arsenal didn't have as many opportunities. But in the second half, Arsenal just turned on and Chelsea hid, and they had the energy. And Arsenal, when I was listening to my favorite podcast ever, ESPN FC, they were saying how Arsenal literally wiped the floor with Chelsea, and I literally cannot agree more. Like that's exactly what they did.
Oh yeah, like for sure. I mean, the fact that the first goal came in the fourth minute, Chelsea
Mhm.
didn't even bounce back. Never even saying like, I
Nope.
mean, never mind saying looking at the stats, like 27 shots from Arsenal, 7 shots from
Yeah,
Chelsea, and out of
it's
all of those 7 shots, all of those little 7 shots, only one was on target.
that's embarrassing. I see. I told you, like we said for the FA Cup game, there's no threat. There's absolutely no threat.
Like there's nothing. And you mentioned this a little bit ago. You said without Cole Palmer,
Oh yeah,
Chelsea's like nothing.
yeah.
They literally are, and this is the
No,
proof because
yeah.
he didn't play this game.
It's so embarrassing. Like Arsenal knew exactly what to do. They knew they had all the combinations down. They had all the passes. They connected as a team. And Trossard is such an underrated player for Arsenal. Like I swear, he always performs and he makes a difference whenever he comes on. And the only positive I can give for Chelsea is our goalkeeper, Petrovic. He, even though it was 5 goals, it was not his fault at all. He made
Yeah.
incredible saves. This game could have literally been 9-0. The back line is why we conceded all those goals. Like, they were crap. It was mistake after mistake. Badiashile, such an embarrassment because when he first came in, I really did like him, but just I don't know what's going on. Nico Jackson continues to be horrible, like in the FA Cup game. He literally can't do anything. We had one shot on target. He's literally useless, and he's so the thing is, this is kind of weird. Nico Jackson is a striker, right? His position is a number 9, and Kai Havertz, that's not his position,
Mm-mm.
but he's making Kai Havertz look like the real striker here.
He really is. Like the way that Arsenal versus Chelsea play in this game were like completely polar opposites. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's just one actually tried
Yeah.
at first and then realized how easy it was, so they treated it like you said,
Mm-hmm.
like a practice session, like a training session.
Yeah.
And
It
it's just insane how Chelsea has come to this much of a low. Like I would expect this to be a difficult game if this was the Chelsea that I expect. Like if I didn't know how they played this season, I would expect like a 3-2 type of scoreline.
Yeah, last time we played them, it was 2-2. We did
Yeah.
so much better. And we literally spent I bring this up like all the time, but we spent a fortune on this team. We are making Pochettino look bad. I still don't think it's his fault. And I hate that people are saying that it is because I literally think he can bring us to something. Like he brought us to Carabao Cup final. He almost brought us to an FA Cup final. It's just the players that we sign are not experienced. We're signing them on like 9-year contracts, and we can't get rid of them because that's going to cost even more money. And we already spent £1 billion, and we literally can't do anything.
No, literally. I mean, they spent so much money on
Mm-hmm.
young players that, yeah, might be helpful in like 5 years. But you need people right now, especially with results like 5-0, because then you won't
Yeah.
get any money to buy more players that you might need in
Mm-hmm.
the future.
We've conceded 57 goals this season, which is the most we've ever conceded as like Chelsea the football club. That's the most they've ever conceded. And this is
That's so
probably
embarrassing.
yeah, it's this team is embarrassing. This is the worst performance by far this season, and it's a London derby, which you should have edge, and you should show fight because you have to show that you're the best. But literally, no one on Chelsea cared. We haven't improved since the beginning of the season at all. Yes, we've had maybe some little bumps along the way that we thought were some positives, but we don't have any dependable players. We need players to help out when the team is hurting and they all look lost. There's absolutely no leadership. Everyone's just, it's like United, like everyone's running around like a chicken with their head cut off. And
Yeah.
if I was Poch, I would leave.
I
Like,
would.
don't let your reputation take a hit. Like, you gotta get out of there.
Like he was good. I was hating on him, but then he turned out to be good. But now it's just the actual team that's the problem.
Yeah.
And something about this game that I do want to mention is that before, like I said, Chelsea usually bounces back if they're losing first half, and they
Mhm.
bounce back and end up winning. And they were losing first half, and they were only losing by one goal. But then the
Mhm.
second half came around, they just completely just like wiped
Yeah.
out. Like they didn't even try. I feel like they didn't even try. They were just there to be there because they
Y-
had to. Manchester United brought a hopefully confidence booster win on Wednesday against Sheffield United with a score of 4-2. Shockingly, Sheffield got the first goal in the 35th minute, but that didn't last very long because 7 minutes later, Harry Maguire tied it up for United, making the score 1-1 during halftime. When the second half began, Sheffield came out strong and scored in the 50th minute, waking United up. In the 61st minute, Manchester United was rewarded a penalty, giving them a tiny score just 20 minutes. And just 20 minutes after the penalty, Bruno Fernandes gave United the lead. To really secure the win, United scored one more time in the 85th minute. And with the score, you would have expected United to really dominate this game. And they did visually, like I said, with the score and the statistics. But then once you've realized and you look at how United actually played, it took them a while to really bounce into this
Mhm.
game. Like, I think Manchester United took this game for granted because Sheffield doesn't have the best record. But seeing this, you can see that you should never really underestimate any teams in the Premier League because they should bring their A game. Like I said before, Sheffield, they you would expect them to just like be bad, but they always try. And I don't think United was expecting that during this game. But at the end of the day, they did win 4-2.
Yeah, I think this result really means nothing. Like, I kind of disagree with you, and you said it's hopefully confidence boosting, but like, they played Sheffield, they're at the bottom of the table, they're getting relegated, period. And the only reason they looked good was because of the team they played. That's the only reason United looked, I guess, good. A win's a win, and that's
But
really all you can get out of it.
yeah, I mean, honestly, they didn't even, like I said, they didn't even look that amazing. Looking at the score, you'd expect it to, but it took them a while to actually get
Mhm.
into the game, get that lead. It was a constant back and forth between them. You shouldn't really have that during a relegated team. The only reason I said confidence booster was because it's been a little bit since United scored like 4 goals in a game.
Yeah.
But something I do have to say, though, which I mentioned before, Harry Maguire, he's so up and down and inconsistent
Mhm.
in United, but hopefully he can keep this at least the rest of the Premier League season because he scored, in this game. He also scored in the FA Cup game. So we'll see how he plays. Maybe this was just like a little lucky week for him. Who knows? But he's so inconsistent. He used to be my favorite player. Like you remember this. Like
Yeah.
I forgot like 4 years ago, 3 years ago.
It was like Euros.
Yeah, during the Euro Cup. Yeah, that was like 4 years ago.
Oh my gosh, wow.
And yeah, and then he ended up sucking, and I was embarrassed that he was my favorite player.
Yeah, and you just
But
like had to change it.
like you would mention it, and I couldn't even.
Yeah.
And now he's back to slowly getting his form back. But
Yeah.
last time he did this, I said the same thing, and then he just disappeared again. Like I actually forgot about him.
Yeah. I mean, like, there was actually a few times in this game where it looked like they could lose against Sheffield. Like, Sheffield went up twice in this game, and I was like, "Oh my gosh. Like, are they actually as bad?" But they kind of they have, I guess, more experience. Like, on paper, they have the better players, period. And I don't think there's anything else to say besides it was 3 points that they wanted and they needed.
They did really need those 3 points. But I mean, it was against Sheffield. You couldn't really expect
Mhm.
less.
Liverpool's struggles continue as they lost to Everton 2-0. Liverpool would have control of the game but couldn't make the most of it, with Jared Branthwaite and Dominic Calvert-Lewin giving Everton the 3 points. I think this the title race is over for Liverpool. Even though I kind of wanted them to win, it wasn't the Liverpool that we're used to seeing. They've had some really bad results recently. Their last 6 games, they lost 3, they drew 1 and won 2. And it's just weird because literally a couple weeks ago we thought Liverpool were going to win the title, and it just like fell apart so fast.
Literally, I mean, I agree. We expected them to be good. We're like, yeah, they have a few rough games ahead, but we think we can pull it together. They couldn't even pull off this game, which should have been an easy win for them.
Yeah.
Like the fact that Everton scored not only in the first half but also the second half, and Liverpool had what 40 minutes,
They
I
had a
think,
lot of time.
or like 30 minutes. Yeah, they had 30 minutes after Dominic Calvert-Lewin's goal, and
Mhm.
they didn't take that. They didn't even score one goal. They didn't. And yeah, they dominated possession. Yeah, they dominated shots, but they lost. They lost 2-0 against the team that, well, are they in relegation? Are they close to relegation?
They're close to relegation. They're in 16th place right now. They're like in that zone though with a couple
Okay,
other
so a team
teams.
that's literally like very close to relegation, and Liverpool, who we thought was going to be in the title race, well, is in the title race, but probably not anymore. Like
Yeah,
that's so like
yeah.
shocking.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Like I think the reason they lost this game was because their Liverpool's forward players have come out of form at like literally the worst possible time. This is when you want your team to be at full strength. Like Liverpool had more shots, but they couldn't convert any of them. They had more possession, but possession doesn't mean anything if you like can't get
if
a
you can't
result.
if you can't do
Yeah.
anything with the possession.
Yeah, exactly. And then something I found really shocking was in this game, Jurgen Klopp. He does not have the same energy as before. And I think he's like mentally out of the job already. I think he's imagining himself on the beach already, just
Hmm.
relaxing. And you would think this team would really like push on because Klopp is leaving and they were doing that until recently. And I thought that was one of the reasons they could win it just to, send Klopp off with, something. And it's just disappointing because they really looked like they wanted it, but it's not working anymore.
I feel like they just kind of gave up, and also since, like you said, Klopp doesn't have that same energy. You used to see pictures of him like yelling,
Yeah.
getting into the game, and now, yeah, sure, he still gets
He
into it, but
was
not like he
sitting
used to.
down. He barely sits down.
I know there was pictures of him like he's like literally always at like the edge of that little
Yeah.
box, and he's
Yeah.
always yelling. He's always trying to encourage his team, and he was literally, like you said, he was sitting down. Like
Mhm.
I feel like you can't only blame the team because also the coach is literally like giving up. I want
Mhm.
to say like he's done. He's already done. Manchester United took on Brighton and expectedly won 4-0 with Kevin De Bruyne scoring early in the 17th minute, and just 10 minutes later, Phil Foden scored the second goal for City, making the score 2-0. Soon later, Foden scored again, making the score 3-0 at halftime. But when the second half begun, Brighton tried to pick up their pace a little bit, and Manchester City put them back in their place in the 67th minute, scoring their fourth and final goal of the match. And I mean, honestly, I didn't expect any less from City. I expected them to bring their game to the table, and they did just that. I mean, I suspected a little bit more competition from Brighton. I do want to say that,
Mhm.
but hold on. But seeing as City had a rough week game wise, like we mentioned before in the FA Cup game, but it didn't seem to take much of a toll on them during this game, and it's just I just kind of expected a 4-0 or like a 3-0
Yeah.
kind of win from them.
Brighton have been horrible recently, and City
It's
just
true.
dismantled them. Like, this was a performance of, like, a title winning team. And that's how I'll put it. City, they started off with really good energy. Like they were on it like straight off, but they had some trouble creating in like the beginning 10 minutes. Okay, that's it. Just 10 minutes of the game they were struggling. They had trouble finding kind of like that final pass to get into the box, but then Kevin De Bruyne, he came, scored an incredible like diving header. Like I was like,
Yeah.
"Yo, dude." And the build-up play was what made that goal. Like there was a beautiful like Phil Foden pass to Kyle Walker, and then Kyle Walker passed it into the box, and then Kevin De Bruyne just dived and headed the ball into the net. And Foden impressed once again. He scored twice, and he's been in great form like all season, and he's probably one of City's best players this season. Like he always makes a difference when on the field, and he just always works. And they were up, was it 3-0 in 33 minutes?
I mean, yeah, they really brought their game here, and like you said, Brighton didn't hasn't been playing well recently. But the only reason I said that I expected a little bit more competition from them is because they were playing City. I would expect a team when they're playing a team like City, like title contenders, to bring the best to the table,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like Brighton just didn't do that. Like I expected a little bit
Yeah.
more from them, and it's kind of disappointing to see that they basically just kind of handed the game to City, except for, like you said, the first maybe 10 minutes.
I think City are going to win the title, like because we know Liverpool's out, and it's
Hmm.
between Arsenal and City now, and I think City are gonna win, and that's my final answer. Like Arsenal is a point ahead right now, but I think I could see Arsenal slipping up somewhere.
I
Like I
feel,
just
sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
I feel like Arsenal has a high chance
Mhm.
of slipping up somewhere
Yeah.
because they're definitely going to be up there, and I feel like it's going to be a very last minute slip up,
Yeah, I
but
think yeah,
they are going to do it.
yeah, just City, they have the squad, they have the experience, they can rest players and still put out like a great team and they know what to do. They like we talked about, they have like a winner like mentality and that's what it will come down to in the end and I think that is what's going to give them the edge against Arsenal.
Yeah, and that's really all that they have, really, because Arsenal is a good side. It is.
Mhm.
But judging by how I just like it comes down to age too. Their players are
Yeah.
younger. They might not have that. Some of them don't. Actually, most of them don't
Yeah.
have that same amount of experience as City does. And I'm not doubting them. I'm sure it'll be a very close race. But I feel like at the
Yeah.
end of the day, City will have that one extra step.
Yeah. And that's all we have for you guys today.
Yes, that's it. Don't forget to follow our Instagram and YouTube at Very Factual Podcast.